So here's another example question. It says A and B are unknown lengths in the given triangles. Use the cosine rule. So this question actually says use the cosine rule to determine the values of these unknown lengths. So let's focus on question 1. There's only one unknown length, and that's this side A. And we're asked to use the cosine rule. Well, what's the cosine rule? If this side is A and I say let this side be the side with length B, and this side be the side with length C, so this angle is angle uppercase A because it's the angle opposite to the side of length A. We know that the cosine rule says that A squared is equal to the sum of the squares of the other side, so B squared plus C squared minus 2 times B times C times the cosine of the angle opposite to this side A. So applying the cosine rule to this particular triangle gives us the following equation. A squared is equal to 10 squared plus 7 squared, so the sum of the squares of the other side, minus 2 times 10 times 7 times the cosine of the angle opposite to this side, which is 30 degrees, so the cosine of 30 degrees. So A squared is simply 100 plus 49. So I'm going to put that in a bracket. 100 minus, let's put this in a bracket too, 2 times 10, which is 20, 20 times 7, which is 140, so 140 cos 30 degrees. So A squared is equal to 149 minus 140 cos 30 degrees. Now simplifying the right hand side of this equation using a calculator gives A squared is equal to 27.756. So we now know what A squared is, but we're looking for A, not A squared. To determine A, take the square root of both sides, and that gives A is equal to the square root of 27.756 from calculator is approximately 5.27 units. So the square root of 27.756 is this. So that's A, and we just use the cosine rule. In this second triangle, the unknown side is B. We're pretty much doing the same thing because we apply the cosine rule. We're looking for B. We know that B squared is equal to the sum of the squares of the lengths of the other side, so that's 3 squared plus 4 squared. The lengths of the other side are 3 and 4. Minus, so I'll put this in a bracket, 2 times the length of the other side, 3 and 4, times the cosine of the angle opposite this side of length B, which is this side 60 degrees, or angle 60 degrees, so we have times the cosine of 60 degrees. Therefore, B squared is equal to 9 plus 16 minus 2 times 3 times 4, 2 times 3 is 6, 6 times 4 is 24, minus 24 cos 60 degrees. So B squared is equal to 25 minus 24 cos 60 degrees. So B squared is equal to, well, what's 25 minus 24 cos 60 degrees? This is something you can simplify using a calculator, and you'll get that B squared is equal to 13. So in order to determine B, you just take the square root of both sides. The square root of B squared is B, the square root of 13 is the square root of 13, and we can stop there. So B is equal to the square root of 13. If you want to go further and write it as a decimal, you can find the square root of 13 using a calculator, and that's simply 3.61 to 2 decimal places. So A, this side here, the length of this side here, A is equal to 5.27, and the length of this side here, B, is equal to 3.61 in whatever units. Here's another example question. We're given 2 triangles, and you can see that the angle alpha is unknown and the angle beta is unknown, so we're required to find alpha and beta. So let's focus on the first case. Let's try using the sine rule. So we're looking for the angle alpha. We know that the sine rule and the cosine rule relate the lengths of the sides of a triangle, the interior angles of the triangle. Now here we have 3 lengths. The length of this side is 12, the length of this side is 8, and the length of this side is 10 in whatever unit, and we have this angle alpha. So let's see if the sine rule can help us find alpha. From the sine rule, we have that 12 divided by sine alpha is equal to 8 divided by the sine of the angle opposite here. So I'm going to call this x, I'm going to call this angle y. 8 over sine x equals 10 over sine y. That's a sine rule. Now, what you notice is that if I pick any equation, I'll always have two unknowns here. I don't know alpha, I don't know x. This equation here, I know 8, I know 10, but I don't know x, I don't know y. So I don't know two things. And even if I say that, oh, this expression is equal to this expression, again, I have two unknowns, alpha and y. And in order to use the sine rule to determine an unknown term, I need to have only one unknown in the equation. So I need to know 3 out of the 4 important terms. So the sine rule isn't just going to work here. It's not going to work. So let's try the cosine rule. What's the cosine rule? Well, we're looking for the angle alpha. So let's use the rule that will involve the angle alpha. So the side opposite to alpha has a length of 12. And you know from the cosine rule, 12 squared is going to be equal to the sum of the squares of the other sides, the length of the other side, 8 and 10. So 8 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 8 times 10 times the cosine of the side of the angle opposite to this side of the length of 12, which is this angle alpha. Because you recall, the cosine was simply a squared is equal to, well, b squared plus c squared. Well, one of the equations anyways, a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. So in this case, a is 12, b is 10, c is 8, and this angle alpha here is clearly a in this case, just for this equation. But that's what's written here. So simplifying gives 144 is equal to 64 plus 100, because 8 squared is 64, 10 squared is 100, 64 plus 100, that's 164, minus 2 times 8 times 10, that's 16 times 10, so 160 cos alpha. We are looking for alpha, so I need to make alpha the subject of the formula. So I'm just going to add 160 cos alpha to both sides, and that gives and you know that minus a plus a is going to be 0. Minus 2 plus 2 is 0. Minus 4 plus 4 is 0. Similarly, minus 160 cos alpha plus 160 cos alpha is also 0. So what we have here is 144 plus 160 cos alpha is equal to 164. I need to find alpha, so I'm going to subtract 144 from both sides. Doing that gives 160 cos alpha is equal to 164 minus 144, and that gives 160 cos alpha is equal to 20, and this gives cos alpha is equal to 20 divided by 160, because all I did was divide both sides by 160. So now I have that the cosine of alpha is equal to 2 over 16, which is the same thing as 1 over 8. 2 here, 1, 2 here, 8. So I can determine alpha by taking the inverse cosine of both sides. And that's something you can easily do by using a calculator. But let me just show you what I'm doing. I'm taking the inverse cosine of both sides. And the inverse cosine is given by the symbol cos to the power of minus 1. Now you can think of the inverse cosine as something that cancels the cosine symbol, which leaves alpha. So you can think of the arc cosine and cosine functions cancelling each other out. Therefore, alpha is equal to the inverse cosine of 1 over 8. Alpha is equal to the inverse cosine of 1 over 8, which you can determine using a calculator by hitting the shift key, then hitting the cosine key, and then typing in 1 over 8, and that results in 82.8 degrees as the result. So that's alpha. So we worked out alpha, and now we need to determine beta. So we want to determine the value of beta, but just to simplify the problem and make it actually solvable, I'm going to change 14 to 8. So I have a triangle here. There are three sides. One has a length of 6, one has a length of 5, the last one has a length of 8, and we have an angle here of beta, an unknown angle. We're trying to find beta. So I'm going to try the cosine rule, and this time I'm going to use a systematic approach. Now I'm going to label this side as A, I'm going to label this side as B, this side, the length of this side is C, so the length of this 5 is B, A is 6, C is 8, and because beta is opposite to this side called B, beta is actually going to be capital B. And you know that from the cosine rule, we have an equation that says B squared is equal to A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cos B. So we're trying to find B. So what I'm saying now is that A is 6, small b is 5, small c is 8, and big B is beta. So all I've done is chosen the equation from the cosine rule, which involves this angle beta, which is B here. So just replacing A with 6, B with 5, C with 8, and B with beta in the cosine rule equation gives 5 squared. So I'll replace B with 5 squared. When I replace A with 6, I get 6 squared. Replacing C with 8 gives 8 squared for C squared minus 2 times AC, so that's 2 times A times C, which is 2 times 6 times 8 times the cosine of, instead of B, I'm going to write beta, this Greek symbol here. Simplifying this gives 25 is equal to 36 plus 64, just put this in a bracket, minus 2 times 6 times 8, which is 2 times 6, 12 times 8, which is 96. So I have 96 times the cosine of beta. So I'm looking for beta. So let me just simplify a bit further. 25 is equal to 36 plus 64, which is 100, minus 96 cos beta. I'm going to add 96 cos beta to both sides, because I'm going to make beta the subject of formula. So I want to have the beta, term involving beta, on the left-hand side. So doing that gives 25 plus 96 cos beta is equal to 100 minus 96 cos beta plus 96 cos beta. So what I've done is I've just added 96 cos beta to both sides. That's what I've done. And if you remember that minus a plus a, where a is any number, is equal to 0. So for instance, minus 2 plus 2 is equal to 0. If you remember this, minus 4 plus 4 is equal to 0. You will know that minus 96 cos beta plus 96 cos beta is of this form and is also equal to 0. So what we're left with is 25 plus 96 cos beta is equal to 100. Subtracting 25 from both sides gives 96 cos beta is equal to 100 minus 25, which is 75. And this gives cos beta is equal to 75 divided by 96. To determine beta, all we have to do is take the inverse cosine of both sides. So inverse cosine of the left hand side is this, which is equal to inverse cosine of the right hand side term. I'm just going to move here. Now you can think of this as cancelling this, which is actually not what happens, but that's just a good way to think about it. And that leaves beta on the left hand side and the inverse cosine of 75 over 96 on the right hand side. If you hit the shift key in your calculator, hit the cosine key, you type in 75 divided by 96, you hit the equals to sign, you get that the angle beta is equal to 38.6 degrees. And that's all.